Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on 1st February 2015 at 16:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. Now, today started off, well, it was supposed to start off with a bang. You know, I mean, the weather hysterions had been talking about, oh, we're going to get this horrible snow, and it's going to be coming in, and it's going to be heavy, and, you know. Now, they did say they didn't know quite where this thing was going to track. And indeed, if you watch it on the radar, on the internet-y stuff, you know, you can see, you know, and it sort of, you know, oh, it's going north, oh, it's going south, oh, it's going north, oh, it's going south, so. As it turned out, the bulk, you know, the snow freeze rain, you know, the rain snow line, and there was a mercifully non-wide band of freezing rain between the rain and the snow. So this was a rain snow. Was pretty much just a hair south of us. So we got some, you know, basically what we got was snow. We didn't get ice. We didn't get, it wasn't like last week's, it wasn't like last Sunday's storm or, well, event. You know, neither of these really classify as storms. And, so it's, you know, it's not a bang and it's not a whimper either. We had about 4 or 5, maybe. Yeah. You know, see, it started to snow around 1 in the morning this morning, and it you know, it wasn't sticking to the trees. It wasn't a wet, heavy snow. But around 7 o'clock in the morning, it did turn into a wet, heavy snow, and it started sticking to the trees. And so I was going to go to church and read. I had scheduled to read, so I was going to go to the 10:30 service. So I was going to leave here around 9:20 in the morning, which was just about timing it just about right as it turned out. And I know, I'm sorry, Storm. I'm not looking at the camera. Here, I'll look at the camera. But a person's got to think, and I think by looking off to the side. Anyway, be that as it may. There, I'm doing it again, aren't I? It was, you know, with the 4-wheel drive, I was able to get out. I shouldn't say we. This is not the royal we. I'm not giving a wave here. Not a papal wave or royal wave. You know, it's just me and the pickup truck going up to church, and so you know, put the thing in 4-wheel drive, got out of here. It's fine. You know, I had written some checks. I had to pay the electric bill and the credit card bill and. Oh, there's some other bill. Oh, the cable bill. Well, and you want to pay the cable bill. Got to have our internets. And there was something else, too. No. There were 2 bills for electric because of the disputed nonsense up at the corner, soon-to-not-be house. So, actually, you know, most of the people, you know, the county really hadn't plowed, you know. No, they really had, I mean, so the roads over weren't too bad because we didn't have that much. I mean, you know, it really only had about 2.5 hours to sort of snow. But it wasn't like one of these big delugeal snows. But the snow from 7 o'clock on was a heavy, wet snow, and it was sticking to the tree. You know, the pine trees, you know, sag. Not dangerously so, just, but you know, it's a wet, heavy snow. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't have to shovel this. And of course, you know, on the way up, you saw all the people, you know, sort of, you know, in these properties faced these sort of suburbanoid roads. You know, they're busily out there doing their snow blowing and their little tractorings. And they're doing all their little suburban, I'm going to fit in type activities. Well, okay. Each to his own. That's the great thing about living in this country, is that to each his own. You do what you want, I'll do what I want, and as long as we're not really, truly, horribly infringing on each other, we'll just leave each other alone. That's the way to get along, guys. Do you hear that over there in ISIS land? Oh, I bet you don't. I bet you don't. So I got up to church, and our senior warden, Jason Ross, who is one of the finest individuals you'll ever hope to meet in the world, he was shoveling the sidewalks and things, and he stopped. We got talking about, you know, he lives up, well, he lives up in Sunbury, but he teaches school in Mount Gilead, which is even farther north. And he was talking about, he drove a student home late one afternoon here this last week, and he said, of course, he says, basically there's very few paved roads out there in that area, and he said there's a gravel road, and you know, and just, it was very basic, and you know, and Jason had grown up in Sunbury. You know, he's in his, well, he's got to be in his mid-late 40s now, mid-40s now. And maybe late, well, mid-40s. But he was talking about, we got talking about, you know, roads. And I said, you know, well, I grew up where there was just a lot of gravel roads, and occasionally they'd come by and they'd put some tar on it in the summer. Then, of course, you know, over time it got paved. He says, but up in some of these counties north of Delaware County, it's just all, you know, it's very basic still. And I thought, you know, that's great, because, you know, I've often thought if I get taxed out of this place, which it doesn't look like that's going to be the case now, but or after Paul retires, and well, if we have to move, let's say if we have to move, I wouldn't mind moving to Mark County or Knox County or up in that Mount Gilead area, and well, for that matter, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Although I still would like to have a medical license in the state in which I live. And, you know, I don't have a medical license in Michigan. So we got talking about that stuff, and then Roseanne came out and joined us, and we stood around and shot the breeze for a while, which is always pleasant. I love to sit around or stand around and shoot the breeze, and hell, we could have cracked a couple of brews or 3 brews, you know, and had a little pre-church beverage there, but we didn't. I didn't have anything in the trucks. You know, there were times in the past though that I would have done. I would have. But you know, I mean, there's always that sense of occasion that takes. Well, it's always taken me a while to figure out, but. Well, poor old Jason's going to be on the spot here during this transition period as our senior warden. Talking about stepping into a can of worms. Well, he's got an in with the Bishop of Maine. His wife's dad is Stephen T. Lane, the Bishop of Maine. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the Bishop of Maine can solve the problem for us somehow. Stranger things have happened. That's just a little flight of fancy here. Pay no attention to that. So to complete the weather story, it's it's now melding, and we're getting a little rain maybe, and it's not going to be bad at all. Okay. Now, my judge buddy came up to me. First of all, there were about 8 or 9 or 10 people in church at 10:30. Yeah, I'm being somewhat inaccurate. Excuse me again. When you count the kids who are off hiding somewhere for a while, I don't know where they stashed these guys, and there were only about 6 people showed up for the choir, maybe 4, 5, and then we had about 10 down in the nave, and then the platform party, which was four people in the platform party. Yeah, we were a smaller crowd than even a usual 8 o'clock service is or was. I don't know. I imagine they probably had more at 8 o'clock today than we had at 10:30. Be that as it may, the judge comes up to me. I've got my gown on, my alb on. And I thought, and I had sent him the links to these water company dig up videos, in which I did about 20 years of swearing there in 2 videos. I freely admit. I mean, I basically gave up swearing for the most part in 1995. For the most part. Certainly never taking the Lord's name in vain or Christ's name in vain. There've been about 2 or 3 slip-ups on that. I mean, there've been a couple of 3 times I've invoked the Prince of Peace inappropriately. But that's a huge change from before I started going back to church. And but basically, absent invoking the Almighty inappropriately in these 2 water company videos, water company digging up my cable inappropriately. You guys got about 20 years of swearing in those 2 videos. Now I thought the judge would have been put way off by it. He says no. He says I thought you were very restrained. And his wife came up and says, I heard him laughing in the other room, so I came in and watched it too. She says, I thought you were very restrained. Oh, okay. So after the service, I was taking off my stuff. I said, look, I want to give you something. And he said, oh. And I gave one of my car. I gave one of my, my Joe Kersey YouTube channel card. And I said, since you weren't completely put off by all this stuff, you can be part of the inner circle now, and I'm going to give you one of my cards. And he sort of looked at it. I said, well, just to get right to my channel, you can just type in, it's got the URL locator on it. You've got the URL locator under the thing. You can type that in, and then you can bookmark it, and then you can go, then you go right to my channel. I'm such a whore. I haven't started selling any merch yet, though. Not yet. It occurs to me, given our priest Roseanne gave a wonderful sermon today, as she does. I mean, it's scripturally based. And she was talking about how the 3 readings today had to do with, transitions. Well, she was using all this as a metaphor for, our church entering into its transition state. Okay, fair enough. And but it occurs to me that, given that she had indicated she would have been willing to stay, had the diocese approved, and she had indicated that to us, when we asked her about it. We didn't do this behind her back. Given the fact that she had indicated her willingness to stay, should the diocese approve, the fact that the diocese did not approve sort of a fast-track situation has kind of put her in an awkward, I'm sure she feels awkward. I don't think it's put her in an awkward situation, but I'm sure she feels that she's in an awkward situation. It's unfortunate because she's, she shouldn't feel at all in an awkward situation. I mean, she was asked a direct question. She gave a direct, honest answer, and, with all the appropriate contingencies about, if the diocese says this and if the diocese says that, and the bishop approved. I mean, she wasn't trying to, jumpstart the process. I mean, this was not her initiative. But nonetheless, it has put her in a bit of a, well, I'm sure from her perception it's put her in a bit of an awkward situation. She shouldn't feel that, but I'm sure she does. I don't know, maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. I don't see, I have never in my life been able to figure out how other people feel. That always distressed my ex-wife. My ex-wife always berated me for not being able to figure out how other people were feeling. Well, that was an accurate statement. But, there's no point berating somebody for being who they are. Assuming they're like a serial killer. Like to torture dogs or something, eat babies, boil babies, put those babies in that, put those babies in that stock pot, Now, as long as you're not doing that, people are who they are. People are who they are, and there's just certain things you're not going to change about them. So you either have to take them or leave them. So by the time I got out of there, I actually had a fairly extended conversation with another doc. She's a quasi-retired internist. And we were pissing and moaning to each other about our various medical conditions. Doc to doc. Doc talk. It's kind of nice to do that from time to time because I don't get a chance to talk to other docs very often. So it's kind of fun to do that. And then scampered home and home safe by the grace of God, and considerably easier to get home. I mean, most of the stuff was melted off the roads and all that kind of stuff. So there we are. Now I got an email from my son Thomas. Apparently he did get the computer, which had been my computer, which then did the same thing with him as it had done with me back from Apple, and and he talks about, you know, replacing the logic board, and that's fine. I mean, I'm sure they did, but I don't, you know, I don't understand what he means, you know, by the logic board. You know, does that involve the processor? Does that involve and does that involve the well, what's it involved? He did say they actually replaced the retina display as well. He said the only thing left from the original machine is the aluminum shell. Well, I'll take his word for it. I eagerly await a more detailed, in-depth discussion about how that goes on. He said he's got a lot of grading to do today, which I don't doubt. And he said Carter and he were hoping for a snow day here tomorrow, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. On Monday, because they have to go in. But yeah, I'm sure they won't get a day off tomorrow. You know, sure, this thing turning to glare. I mean, total ice, and it ain't going to do that. I don't think. I don't know. Never know. Well, as I said, home safe by the grace of God. I will remark that QuickTime Player. Or QuickTime. Yeah, QuickTime Player has quit twice during the recording of this video. So, Apple, you might want to take note. Maybe you need to do another update or something. So, I'm going to say bye-bye YouTubers now. Alrighty.